Hey everybody, Mega Ruler 31 back here for FSi DFS. We got two slates today for Thursday, the 18th of August. We got a 6 game slate that starts at 105, and we've got a 5 game slate that starts at 705. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break down the early slate first, and then if you look down in the comments, if it's already past the lock of the early slate and you're just looking for the main info, I'll post a timestamp as when I start talking about that. So a lot to talk about today. So hopefully we'll keep both these slates straight, and let's get started here. So starting off today, we have the Rockies and the Cardinals. And we have Sensatel and Adam Wainwright. Sensatel is definitely a fade. Wainwright's quite interesting here. The Rockies have struggled definitely against right-hand pitching. And Wainwright has been okay over the last 3 starts, putting up some decent numbers. Not a super high K pitcher, but gets the job done, goes deep enough in the game. So I'm pretty okay playing him. Probably more like as an SB2. But if you want to get some bats in, then potentially an SP1. Uh, Bat wise, Rockies no interest whatsoever. They're probably the least likely one that I play in the slate. And St. Louis, I think it's going to be a top stack just because Sensatella, I know it's on course, but he's really struggled this year. And I think that especially adding like some of these left-handed bats to the Rockies or to the Cardinals lineup, I think that they make a pretty strong stack today. Oakland Athletics and Texas Rangers, you have Zach Logue and Dane Dunning. Logue is definitely another fade for me. I think Texas is the number 2 stack on the slate here. I know we would say that a lot recently. And it's not because Texas is awesome. It's just been circumstantial. They've just had some really good matchups. Haven't really super taken advantage of them, but the potential's there. Dane Dunning, I think, is kind of sneaky today. He doesn't miss like bats, but Oakland doesn't really have much power. They usually like nickel and dime you to death here, and they're still like mixing in a lot of like newer guys. So I think if you want to save for an SP2 at 6K, he's definitely a great play on this slate. Again, like if you want to get some bats in, and I think he'll be able to get enough done to. And he's had some decent, even on FanDuel, he's had a couple quality starts against some lesser teams. And I think this sets up to be one of those situations for him. Rangers bats, like I say, I like them here again. Simeon continues to struggle and be cheap, especially on FanDuel. But he's a good player. Just a matter of time before he snaps out of it. I think Seager is always in a good spot, low. Heim should be back in catching today. So some good options there for a stack. Okay, now we have the Los Angeles Dodgers and Milwaukee Brewers. We have Andrew Heaney and Corbin Burns, and you've got 2 decent pitchers. Obviously, Burns is the better one here. But Burns, he's had 2 good starts, but he's given up some runs recently. So I don't know. Like the Dodgers are a good team. I think he's probably going to be the top player for pitcher for most people on DK when it comes to stacking or paying up for pitchers. But I don't know if I really want to pay that much for him against the Dodgers. It just last couple outings for DK, he did well. He had 23 and 26, but against Pittsburgh, he gave up 4 earned runs. He had 3 earned runs against Minnesota, and there's just been some games where he's not missed some bats. So, but the Ks have been there, so I think it's definitely worthwhile. Last couple games, 6Ks, 9Ks, 6Ks, 11Ks, 5Ks, 10Ks, 10Ks. So the K upside is definitely there. The Dodgers are a team that's pretty patient at the plate. So again, this is a very tough decision. I don't think I'm going to be playing him in cash, but I think I can see definitely pass for him there. Heaney on the other side, same thing. Like he's a good pitcher. He's still kind of working his way back from being out. He's got a bunch of starts, at least 4 starts under his belt now, but he really hasn't gone super deep, like over like 4 innings. It's been 4 innings, 4 innings, 4.2 innings, 3 innings last time out. So I think at like 9.5, I really don't want to pay for him, especially against the Brewers, who have a decent lineup also. And then So bat wise, I think the Dodgers make a very, very intriguing GPP stack, especially a leverage stack, because if Burns does struggle and they have like super low ownership, especially like the lefties here, Burns is pretty good against the righties. Like, maybe Freeman, Muncy, like a mini stack there. Lux, Gallo's actually been great, much better now. He's like almost returning to his Texas form after leaving New York. I don't know what was the pressure, the ballpark, or the hitting coach, or what's going on there, but he's hit home runs, I think, in 3 of the last 4 games. So if he's in the lineup, you definitely consider him there. So like the Dodgers, a sneaky GPP leverage stack. Milwaukee, same thing against Heaney, but other than that, I might probably just leave this game alone because I just don't know which way it's going to go. Next up, we have the Astros and the Chicago White Sox, Luis Garcia and Giolito. Garcia, the White Sox have struggled recently. There's no secret that they're a boom or bust team, just kind of like Minnesota, like where they can put up a lot of runs or absolutely nothing at all. But then again, like Garcia, you're only looking at about like 15 DK points in the last 4 starts. Nothing super exciting there. About 6 innings, about 4 earned runs a game there, and you're only looking at like 5 or 6 strikeouts. So I don't think I'd really recommend playing him. I mean, he's the second guy on the high end here, but I think this whole high end one is like really, really risky today. I think the medium range is like where our sweet spot for cash pitchers. Giolito on the other side too, like he's been like a DFS darling recently, just with like his matchups and his pricing, and he's come through a little bit, about 20 DK points in the game, the last 3 against Detroit, Texas, and Kansas City, but they're like weaker opponents. And now he comes up against a Houston team that is really patient. Now it is in Chicago, so it's outdoors. It's not in Houston. The wind is blowing in a little bit at 6 miles per hour. So, and that helps a little bit for pitching, but I just don't think I'm just going to stay away from him. If I'm paying down, I'm going to go Dunning against Oakland. In GPPs, if you want to take Giolito, that's fine. But Houston's just definitely a decent team here. They've almost got a 4.5 total. So, and then again, like the White Sox, I think make a great GPP stack here too, because if Garcia continues in his current form, giving up about 4 runs, and the White Sox can figure out and put it together, then they could put up some runs here. Now, next we have a decent total here. We got 9 for the Chicago Cubs and Baltimore Orioles. It's in Baltimore. Wind's blowing out to right field, about 5 miles per hour, 85 degrees. So decent hitting weather here. We have Sampson and Watkins. Neither pitcher is really exciting to me. I think they both have struggled a little bit this year. And I think like I really like the bats in this game more than the pitcher. And both of them a little bit reverse splitsy. So definitely looking at like stacking the Cubs. They're like relatively cheap here, other than like Contreras, who's like almost 6K and DK, but everybody else is like almost in the 4K range, except for some reason Wisdom is just like so priced up. I don't get that. So I don't think he's necessary to play. Plus, especially because he's like hitting so far down the lineup. But if he is hitting up higher, maybe Morgan's consideration. But sorry, I can't talk today. There's a lot of Cubs options here for you. And then especially Reyes against Watkins, even though it's a righty on righty there. Like I said, Watkins is kind of a reverse splits guy. So Reyes is a fine play there. And then Baltimore on the other side, they've been hitting really well here. And especially like, the top of their lineup, and get a little salary relief with like 2.5 Herrera if he's there at like hitting 5th. But these top guys have gotten kind of expensive. They're all around like 5K. Mullen, Treshman, and Santana, Mountcastle, you get a little bit of a discount there. So, but like both sides of this team, I'd probably play a game stack of them, and I'll try to. I'm okay if you mix them in as like a secondary stack in cash. I'm fine with that too. If you want to mix them with like St. Louis or Texas, the Bills are just really hard with like you just come up with like a lot of guys that you want to play at the same position, and then there's some positions that are just like a desert that you just have to pick somebody, or it's hard to make like full stacks of like 2 different teams. So it might be a day where you pick your primary stack and just fill in with the best one-offs that you want, or maybe correlate with like do like a 4-2-2 or something like that. Then finally, we have Arizona Diamondbacks and San Francisco Giants, Jack Gallen and Logan Webb. Zach Gallen, if you look up his BVP versus the San Francisco batters, he owns them. Most of them are hitting under like 200 versus him in a great sample size. So I'm really like him in the medium range here, but Webb by far I think has more K upside, and definitely is the better pitcher, and I think he's going to be my favorite like SP1 in cash. But I don't really struggle with stacking like Webb and Gallen in a lineup either. So I think between Webb, Wainwright, and Gallen is where I'm going to be looking at it for cash, dropping down to Dunning for an SP2. And I think I'm just going to leave Burns, Garcia, and Heaney on the shelf, especially Garcia and Heaney. They have like no use really. They're just overpriced for what they give you. But Burns, like if he beats me, that's fine. Maybe I'll have a little bit of ownership on him, but I think my sweet spot is Webb, Wainwright, Gallen, and then dropping down to Dunning, just staying with those four pitchers as a kind of a core here today. So Arizona bats against Webb. Again, it's a leverage thing. And San Francisco is always cheap, but just with their numbers against Gallen, except for like Jack Peterson, I'm just thinking I'm just going to stay away there. So let's look at the early builds and get you on your way to the main. So again, Webb and Dunning, I'm going to take St. Louis, like so Goldie, Arenado, Seager from Texas, Nootbaar, Donovan. I'm going to try to fit in the rest of Texas and then just go one-offs there. And again, if you want to go full stack of Texas, I'm fine with that too. But again, it's just hard to stack Texas. And Houston's interesting also if you want to go with a stack of cash. I don't struggle with that at all either. Again, if Baltimore and Chicago Cubs, if you want to stack them in cash, that's fine, or do a game stack, that works out also. So those are the teams that I like. St. Louis is my favorite. I think Baltimore, Chicago would be second. Like Texas, just because they're so hard, I'd rather like fill in with some key guys like Lau and Seager, and maybe if I can get Simeon in there. But like, there's really no outfielder guys that I really love. The catcher maybe I'd take as Heim. So that's where I'm kind of going with there. FanDuel, I'm taking Webb as my SP1. I can get a Cub stack in here perfectly with a St. Louis stack. So right now I have Webb, Goldman, Gorman, and Wisdom. You don't have to pay up for Wisdom. Again, he's optional there. You can go Arenado at third base if you want to. I think you can make that work. Then Nootbaar and Happ in the outfield, and then you might have to punch shortstop if you don't want. I'm hoping Donovan plays because he's shortstop eligible. After DeJong, after coming up from the minors, has really cooled off a lot after like being really hot like a week or so ago. So not super interested in him there, but again, the pricing fits. So then just have to figure out like how you want to round off the stack. If you want to play Reyes or Suzuki in the other outfield spot, or Carlson for St. Louis. So just play around with it, come up with a line that you like. But pretty much St. Louis and the Cubs are the answer there with Webb as the pitcher. Okay, GPP, again, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stack this Cubs and this Baltimore game. So Gallen is my pitcher. SP2, you can drop down to Dunning again. If you can get Wainwright in there, that's fine. If you can get up the Webb again, I'm good with that too. But Rushman or Contreras, you save $1,000 on DK if you take Rushman. Mountcastle, Ferrari, or Madrill, you just have to see like how much salary you have for which one. Ferrari is cheaper. Then third base, if you can get up to Wisdom, that's fine. I don't think you need to. That might just be a one-off if the Baltimore guy hits lower in the lineup. So for that position, but it's not, not out of the question. It's usually Urias there, and he's like 3-2, so that's not bad. But I think I might rather take a one-off if you can't get up to Wisdom there. Shortstop, again, you just have to figure out who works for you there. I don't think that really fits in the stack really well either on DK. I guess Homer, if he's like hitting like sixth, is a decent one there. Or Mateo, if you want to do a wraparound one, but 3-8 for a guy batting ninth is a little bit too much for me, I think. So Happ, Santander, Mullins, Reyes, whoever you want to fill in the outfield. And then for GPP, like I said, for GPP on DK, also if you want to take a Dodger stack, I'm fine with that too. And I did work with a Dodger stack on FanDuel here, so I have Dunning as my pitcher. I think he can get enough to get a quality start against Oakland. Freeman, Simeon, Muncy, Betts, and Lau from Texas are the priority. So I'm taking a Dodger stack, trying to focus on the lefties, but I'll probably play Betts. So I could probably take like Gallo or Lutz or somebody else in the outfield there. And then if you just fill in with the rest of the bats from Texas to try to complete the stack. If I have to take a one-off at an outfield, if I can't find enough a Texas guy I like that fits in pricing, I'm fine with that too. So that concludes the early slate. So let's move on to the main slate here quickly. So this slate, you've got 5 games, you got some decent pitchers, but problem is there's a lot of discrepancy in the KC and the Tampa Bay game as to who's pitching. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But first, I would start out with the Toronto and the struggling Yankees. Move the Yankee Stadium here. You got Barrios and Montas. Barrios had a stretch where he was really, really good, and then the last 3 have been horrible. So have to see. It makes the Yankees look like a really good stack here, but they've just been so inconsistent that I think they'd be my favorite GPP stack against them. Barrios is a pitcher. I think if you want to take a dart in the cheap range at 6-7 and think that the Yankees are still off in a GPP, I think that's perfectly fine. But be it a little bit risky. Wind blowing out a little bit in Yankee Stadium, 5 miles per hour. So that helps hitting a little bit. Montas on the other side has come over, really hasn't had great starts since he started with New York coming off the All-Star break since the trade. But I think, he's a good pitcher. 7.3 is a great price on him. And he's really strong against righties, and Blue Jays are pretty much righty heavy here. They don't really have many lefties to throw at him. So that just definitely goes well in his favor. Might he give up 2 or 3 runs? Yes, but could he get enough Ks and go deep enough in the game to pay off his salary? Then yes, I think he's perfectly fine there. So again, I think these are the top 2 GPP stacks against the pitchers, and I think both pitchers make very intriguing options in GPPs also. Boston Red Sox and Pittsburgh Pirates. You have Wisconsin. I have seen Evaldi. If Evaldi is here, then I think he's one of the top pitchers on the slate. So for some reason it changes at night, and check the comments like 6:30. Like I said, we always try to throw updates if something major changes. But if we see that Evaldi's there, then definitely I'm going to pivot off, and he's going to be huge in play tonight in the slate. But Wisconsin, I don't really like, except for I think he's a decent GPP option as an SP2, because Pittsburgh is just Pittsburgh, and anybody against them is a decent start no matter who the pitcher is. We've been saying over and over again, people against Pittsburgh, Detroit, Oakland, LA, these like struggling teams have kind of mailed it in for the season. Starting anybody against them can definitely have some floor. Brubaker on the other side, I don't really like. The Red Sox are really starting to get back to full strength here. I know Xander's been banged up a little bit, but he consistently still keeps playing. Story's really close to coming back. So Kike's back also, and he might end up like leading off at some point too, and that's a decent value. So we'll just have to pinch hit risk a little bit too, because he's usually a specialist, I think, against lefties more than anything. So Boston, I think, is my second favorite stack behind San Diego, and I think might be my favorite stack because in order to get a top end pitcher in, you can't afford really San Diego with the pricing. So I'm playing a lot of Boston as my primary stack in cash. Pittsburgh, really no. If you want to play them against Wisconsin, who's struggled a little bit, and maybe catch some lightning in the bottle, but they've like some one-offs here, or like a stack of the lefties, I'm fine with that. But I think it's just a GPP or cheap fill-ins, and for a GPP, I don't know if I'd even play Pittsburgh in cash. Okay, so now the mystery game here: Kansas City Royals and Tampa Bay. I've seen Keller pitching, I've seen Max Castillo pitching, I've seen like a bunch of other KC guys is pitching. So I'm just gonna stay away from the KC pitching situation here. I see Beeks, I see Luis Patino, I see McClanahan. If it is McClanahan, then definitely he's definitely in play here against Kansas City, and would definitely go up as probably the second or third best pitcher on the slate here, up with DeGrom and Darvish. So you just have to watch for that too. But if it's Patino and Beeks, it's probably going to be like an opener and a long reliever. Patino's only gone like 2 or 3 innings, like most times out. So it's probably going to be like kind of a bullpen game. So again, just kind of fading the pitching position situation here, but really like KC as especially the top guys in the order here. Melendez, Witt, Perez, Pascal, Tino just continues to have a lot of power and do really well. And he's only 2-3 way underpriced. Hunter Dozier should be coming back from IL. So Taylor's got some speed here. He's 2K flat. So a lot of good fill-ins here for Kansas City against this Tampa Bay. And then Tampa Bay has some decent bats also. I think they're my favorite cheap stack also against whoever the KC pitcher is. So here are your cheap fill-ins for your pay up for a pitcher and try to fit in a Boston or San Diego stack tonight. Next up, we have another decent pitching matchup. We have Jake DeGrom and Fried. DeGrom hasn't gone too deep into games since coming back, but the Ks are there, and he's got like a high 40% K rate out there just in his 3 starts. So definitely, I think the Mets will have a short leash on him, but this is a divisional game. They really need to win it. So if it's a close one and he's doing well, he might get a little bit longer out there. He's Jacob deGrom. He's obviously the best one. Just really hard to make him work with some of the top stacks. So, especially on FanDuel, if you want any bats. But so he's definitely SP1, but you'll just have to see if you like the rest of your lineup, if you play him, especially on FanDuel. DK, it's doable, especially you can even pair him and Darvish and make it work too. And we'll talk about that in the lineup section. Fried on the other side, the Mets have been very patient. They've been worse against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. So I think that might be in his favor, but definitely only a GPP option just because the Mets are so patient and a decent lineup here. So, and the win equity is kind of hard too going up against Jake DeGrom. So, probably not going to play Fried, but don't cross him off if you're playing GPP. You might have a really, really good game there and be a slate breaker. So that he has the potential for that. Final game, we have Nationals and San Diego. We have Anibal Sanchez and, the bats for the Mets and Atlanta are just going to be leverage plays there. I don't really like anybody. Obviously, if you stack against a high-end pitcher, you have low ownership, and if that stack goes off, then you definitely have a chance to win a lot of money. But I think the likelihood of it in this matchup is pretty low. So just don't go super heavy on that if you're going with that strategy. Maybe $1 or the $4 GPP or something like 20 max, something like that. Nationals and Padres, Anibal Sanchez, probably the worst pitcher on the slate here. Yu Darvish is definitely a good spot. I know he struggled recently, but Washington's so watered down. There another one of the lineups I should have named him with the other 4 there, with the Detroit and the Pirates and the Oakland and the Angels. Like I think they go up there as a 5th one. Would just kind of be gutted. I mean, they picked a Voit who used to be good against lefties, but he's just struggled this season too. Nelson Cruz is just a shell of himself. Like they got some young guys in here and everything, but they just don't scare me at all. So I think Darvish might be my favorite SP1 if I can't get up to DeGrom on the slate just based on the matchup. And then Sanchez is a no. Washington for bats, not super interested in. Again, if you want to leverage contrarian play against Darvish, if you think he struggles a little bit and maybe, but even home run hunting, it's mostly a right-handed lineup, and he's a right-handed pitcher, so I don't really see any lefties here that I'd even take as a one-off. That like if Soto was still there, I'd consider it, but there's just really nothing left here. Padres on the other side, like I said, they're super, super expensive. If you want to get a little contrarian and stack like the bottom of the lineup and take like the bottom 5, like Bell, Cronenworth, Grissom, Kim, Alfaro, that might work. And just because Sanchez is just such a bad pitcher, work out for you. But just if you're trying to get some of these top guys in, they're just so expensive. It's like 6-1 for Soto, 5-8 for Manny. Drury's like 5-6, and Bell's 4-7. He just really hasn't hit much recently. I think he did good last game, but if you look at like the 5 or 6 games before that, he was just like crickets. So just to kind of recap things, like DeGrom and Darvish are my top 2 pitchers here on the slate. If McClanahan is in, then he definitely probably goes below Darvish there. Fried and Montas are interesting guys in the mid-range. I like Montas, I think, much better just based on the matchup against the Blue Jays, but both are definitely risky. Barrios and Wisconsin in the mid-range, again, both are kind of risky. I think Wisconsin is a little bit safer. Probably doesn't have a high ceiling as Barrios can with like strikeouts and upside, but his matchup against Pittsburgh, he should have enough floor to get it done. And then I'm fading the Tampa Bay pitching situation unless it's McClanahan. The KC situation, Sanchez and Brubaker. Top stacks are San Diego and Boston. Probably going to go more Boston just because they're more affordable. New York and Toronto make great GPP stacks if you think that they can actually come alive against the pitchers. Cheap fill-ins are your Tampa Bay, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh, and then leverage is Atlanta and the Mets, and then Washington. So the builds, taking DeGrom and Yu Darvish, if I can get up to both of them here. I am putting I'm going with I actually can get some San Diego pieces in with some Boston pieces in, but the rest of them I'm going to have to fill in with like Tampa Bay, Kansas City, or Pittsburgh guys. So probably punting catcher. The Boston guy is actually mid salary if he's in Pelicki or whoever I think it is. There's another guy too out there for another team that I think is mid salary. Might be Tampa Bay or somebody I saw that it was in the potential starting lineup. Maybe it's the Pittsburgh guy. Yeah, Hyman. So in that game, there should be a 2K catcher between Boston and Pittsburgh, and even if it's against your pitcher, I'm fine that with that if you're playing Wisconsin. But so Hosmer, Cronenworth, Devers is where I'm going. Soto and Verdugo. So you can get two top pitchers and some of the top bats in. Just the rest of the fill-ins have to be really, really cheap mid-price guys. If you want to go one stack over the other, that's fine. It's just really hard getting like Manny and Bell in there for this San Diego stack just because they're super, super expensive. A little bit easier getting like a full Boston stack in there again. And like I said, just check out the lineup if like Duran's leading off or Kiki or somebody like that. If they've given some of their people like a day off or a day of rest here. So if like Fam's not leading off or Xander's out or somebody's like Boston has like Arroyo, if he moves up into the lineup and or something like that, there are some cheap options here on Boston that can make it work a little bit better to try to get more of the stack in. FanDuel taking you, and then again, it just was too hard to get up to DeGrom here, and actually I'd have to take like a 4-man lineup, and then I'd have to take like all kinds of crazy like cheap one-offs, which it is workable that they are out there, but I would rather stack Tampa Bay and Boston. I think that works. So first base, I'll let you pick who you want there. If you want to take Diaz fits in there, Choi fits in there, or Hosmer fits in there. Lau from Tampa Bay at second, Devers, Boston third, Xander Bogart at shortstop, Verdugo outfield, Rodriguez or H. Ramirez at outfield from Tampa Bay. And then, if JD Martinez or Pham, if you can get to them, and then if they're take a one-off in utility or another Tampa Bay guy, if maybe the other first baseman, if you use Choi there, then put Diaz there, or Diaz and Choi, whatever, vice versa. Or if there's another cheap player on the team, then fine. Also, I think Mejia hits on the bottom there. Siri, you can do like a wraparound with them, Walls, however that works out. GPP taking Barrios and Wisconsin. I'm going to take a chance on them. And then this gets me a full San Diego stack, and I'm filling in with Kansas City. So I'll probably punt catcher there because I can get the KC catcher in my outfield. Bell, second base, I might have to go with a one-off there. I'm okay if you go play Vinny at first base from Kansas City over Bell if you want to play like Cronenworth at second. Machado, Witt, Soto, Melendez in outfield, and then if you can get in Profar or another or Grissom, he hits if he's in the outfield, he's a little bit cheaper there for San Diego. So work it out between the San Diego team and Kansas City. If you need to take a one off there, it's fine. But those are the pitchers that I'm taking. Again, risky, but it is a GPP lineup. And then finally for FanDuel, taking Montas as my SB1. And then again, I'm taking a full San Diego stack, and I think I got a full KC stack in there. So I'm taking Vinny Pasquantino at first base. Decide if you want to pay down for the Kansas City guy or take Cronenworth at second base or take one off there. Machado, Witt, Solo, Profar is my priorities there. And then I think I'll try to get Perez in as the utility there, and then fill in with like whoever I can with the outfield and second base, whoever works with a stack, or take a one off there. So that's what we got. Again, check the comments or leave your comments below if you have any questions. Check back at 6:30 if anything weird changed with this pitching situation tonight for some of these teams for Boston or Tampa Bay or Kansas City, or somebody gets scratched, then we'll have some information there. There's no weather to worry about, so that's a nice thing too. So hopefully that helps you. You can hit me up at Twitter at Megalor31. If you want more information on FSi DFS, check out the description of the video. All the information about our Discord there, our website for our pricing, super cheap. Got a lot of great things going on. NFL is coming up, covering the preseason right now. Got a great package for that for the season, low pricing on that, so check it out. Soccer is getting in full swing. Got that. Got the World Cup coming up in November, so lots of great things there. NBA season should be starting up in a couple months. Baseball is winding up. We got NASCAR. We got PGA heading into the playoffs. So lots of great stuff going on in FSI. So check it out. Just get in the Discord because there's some free stuff in there too that just to help you out. A lot of pools and stuff that you can join for NFL, survivor leagues, pick'ems, different things like that. So come check us out. Join our community. Please like the video, subscribe to our channel so you know when our videos are coming out. Share with your friends if it helps you out so it can help them too. And I'm MegaRuler31. I appreciate you all watching, and we will see you next time for tomorrow, which is usually a pretty big slate, probably anywhere from 12 to 14 games. So we'll be breaking that down for you then. So good luck in your contest today. We'll see you next time.